Marissa, what do you tell me all the time about my cooking?
I love it.
You love my cooking, so I made you something.
Then why is it like, why is it peanut butter and jelly sandwich that's like that? You should appreciate her getting us a present, but I didn't know it would be like that. Yes, a sandwich of mine. I love your cooking when you cook like dinners, like hot pockets or pasta or buffalo wings, something like that. Not just a sandwich. Why would you eat off of it?
Well, Marissa, so you don't want that peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
I'll eat it. I'll eat it.
Good morning, like hot pockets. I love that line. Anyway, we were talking about expectations and the expectations that we have for Christmas and just life in general. And I know that all of us have done this, right? How many times, how many people in here have had to have that experience where you had to pretend that you were excited about a gift that you were being given? How many people have done that, right? You just put on that smile. How many people just don't even bother with that? You just like, I don't like it, right? Nobody, right? Because we're all nice people. But there's always been this experience where you like open this and you're expecting something and you're kind of disappointed. And the reason that is because your expectations were off. I remember watching my mother-in-law die inside a little bit. One time when my father-in-law got her a gift, okay? He wasn't really, because it was my mother-in-law, kind of enjoyed this. But anyway, there was this kind of moment where my father-in-law had gotten her his gift. He was really excited about it. He was like, you're going to love what you're going to get. He talked about it the day before, and then we got up that morning, and she had this box that was probably just about the size of that big silver box right there. She gets ready to open it. He's so excited, and I'm thinking, that old dog, he got her like cruise tickets or something and wrapped it in this big old box, to throw her off. So she gets in there, and he's not really gifted. She opens it up, and drum roll, it's a vacuum, right? Now, don't get me wrong, he made the point. It was an expensive vacuum, right? But it was still just a vacuum. And I know there's plenty of some of you out there who'd be like, oh, that would be great, right? But she was just like this plastered on smile. She was like, thanks, that's great, And we've all had that moment where we're kind of let down. And it wasn't because what we were getting wasn't good, right? New vacuum, that's good. It's because our expectations were off. And we're making the point in this series that if we would change our expectations, and that doesn't mean lower our expectations, but if we would just have healthy expectations of what we can expect from God, from people, then we will have a good understanding of what we need to do in life, and we can change our life by changing what we expect. So today, we want to talk about this. Last week we talked about what we can expect from God. This week what we want to talk about is this. What we can expect from people. What we can expect from people. Because a lot of times, our expectations are completely off the mark about what we can expect from people. Right? So today we want to just talk about what's the thing we should expect from people. And you might be surprised at what the Bible says about what to expect from people. Because here's the thing. We, all of us, have this cup in our soul. All of us have a cup or a vessel of some kind in our life that we need to fill. We are driven to fill this thing. This is the thing that motivates everything that you do in life. Because all of us have a desire to be filled with love, with worth, right? We want to feel worth and happiness. Right? Love, worth, and happiness. It's a drive that we have. In fact, your life up until this moment, your life is just a story of you in your pursuit for love, worth, and happiness. That's your life. And what we do is we go, we got to get this cup filled. Because here's the thing. We are desperate to get it filled. If somebody doesn't have these things in their life, if their cup isn't being filled, then they will take drastic measures. People will quit their job, move across the country, leave their spouse, right? They will do a lot of things drastically if they don't get this cup filled. And so we're out there trying to fill it up, and here's the expectation we have. we expect people to fill our cup, right? We expect people to pour into us, to give us love, to give us worth, to give us happiness. We're constantly looking to just people at large, but we're looking to our friends, and we're looking to our spouse, and we're looking to our kids, right? This is the reason that many of you had kids, right? Because you're like, man, if I just had that kid, right, then I would be able to hold them, and when they grew older, we'd have this relationship, and I would be able to fill that desire, right? And then you had a kid, and what happened? They filled your life with poop, right? That's what they did. Anyway, so we're expecting to be filled with this. This is why some of us got married. This is why a lot of us have relationships with the friends we do, is because we expect people to fill our cup. But the problem with that is there's actually two problems with it. The first one goes like this, that the people that we are asking to fill our cup are usually broken, right? So they themselves are trying to find love and worth and happiness, and they're trying to find it, and they can just barely hold enough for their own, right? Because they've got that own thing in their life. And so they're trying to fill, and we're expecting these broken people to put this into our life. So they're out there and they're seeking it, and they're trying to get it, and then manage to get it up, right? That's the first problem. So we're expecting broken people to fill us up when they themselves aren't even filled. And the second problem with it is, even if you had all kinds of people that were pouring into you, right? You've got the best spouse in the world, you've got the best friends in the world, and they just constantly compliment you and give you worth and take you on vacations, and they just do all this stuff for you. Even if that were to happen, there's the haters, right? There's the people that are coming along and poking holes in our cup, right? Like your ex-wife, your boss, right? Your kids, your other kid, right? They're constantly coming along and they're sucking the love, the worth, and happiness that everybody else has tried so hard to put in your life and you've tried to get. And so this is how many of our lives look. This is a picture of where we live in our life. We're doing this. Got broken people taking what little bit they got, putting in that, taking broken people, putting in what we got. And it's just, we're frantically trying to do this like crazy. And our life is just this constant cycle of having just enough love, and just enough worth, and just enough happiness for the people in our life. And it just keeps draining out of us. Now here's the problem. Eventually, if we live this way, that the way our cup's going to get filled, the way we're going to experience love, and the way we're going to have worth, and the way we're going to be happy, is if other people pour that into us. There's one of two people you'll become. The first person you might become is you're going to become that person that will do and to say anything to get somebody to pour into your life. You become the person, you basically become codependent, where the thing that you desire in life more than anything else is to be filled by another person. So you will do whatever you got to do, right? And you will adopt any kind of values, and you will become friends and have relationships with anybody. Because the only thing you care about is whether or not your cup is under this person, whether they're pouring into your life. So you become that. And I gotta say that is no way to live your life. Or you'll become a person that basically hates people, right? Had a guy one time, we were going around doing an icebreaker in a small group, and here was the big fun question. I was like, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? We went around the group and everybody kind of told their answer. And then he was like, well, if I had all the money in the world, I'd buy a mountain, and I'd build a cabin at the top of the mountain, and I'd sit down on my porch with a rifle, and anytime anybody tried to go up the mountain, I'd shoot, right? Wow, great. Well, this is going to be a great group then, right? Special. Got a project here. So anyway, but honestly, that's how you kind of get, because you expect people to be filling your cup, to be filling your life with all these things that you so desperately need, and then they don't. and you get angry, and you get frustrated, and you end up kind of like hating people. Not because they failed to be people, but because they failed what you expected. You expected them to fill you with something. I was at the store, Walmart a few months ago, and I was standing in line, and I was behind this lady, and she was returning something. I was getting ready to return something. She goes up there and she's returning this item, and the Walmart employee like tells her something that makes her angry, and all of a sudden she like goes ballistic, just like freaks out on this Walmart lady, and she just starts talking about how terrible Walmart is, and what a terrible person she is, and she's just going crazy. And the woman that works at Walmart, she's just kind of numb inside. You can tell this has happened before, right? She's just like, "We're sorry for your inconvenience, ma'am," right? Like, she doesn't care. And I'm standing behind this lady who's just going crazy on a Walmart employee. And I'm sitting there going, "Oh, sweetie, like, somewhere in life, you expected somebody to, like, fill you up. And they didn't. And now you, like, what? You hate Walmart? That's what's happened here?" It drives and shapes everything about who we are when we don't get that cup filled. We've got to stop expecting people to fill the cup because it's just going to lead to disappointment. And it isn't a healthy expectation. So, here's what we want to do. Well, today we want to talk about how do you change what you expect from people? How do you move from living a life where you're basically looking at human beings and saying, "I expect you to fill me up"? How do you remove that expectation? How do you go on? And if they don't fill your cup, how does your cup get filled? Right? That one we're going to leave to the end, but right now I just want to talk about how do we remove that expectation that we have for people in our life? Because if we will do that, we'll become mature. See, this is a working definition. This gives a good opportunity, because we're always talking about, like, what does it mean to be mature? This gives us an opportunity to talk about a good working definition of what mature is. I say this: maturity, people you know that you consider to be genuinely mature, because that's not about age, right? It's about something inside. Maturity is having love, worth, and happiness that doesn't come from other people. Just imagine, like, if you could wave a magic wand over you and you could be filled with love, worth, and happiness that doesn't come from other people. Can you imagine what, like, when you have Thanksgiving or you have Christmas with your crazy family? Because everybody's got a crazy family. At least one person in your family is crazy, or you're that crazy person. But anyway, you go and you're just filled with love and worth, and you don't need anything from them. That doesn't mean you're angry at them. It's just you don't need them. What could they say to you that could possibly get you riled? Because it doesn't matter. You're already full. You don't need anything from them. Can you imagine what it would be like to work at your crazy job with your crazy, weird employee friends that you have, or employees or employer? Right? If you already had all the love, all the worth, all the happiness you need, it's just something that you had inside of you, can you imagine how that would shape and change who you were as a person? Because you don't need anything from them. You're just a bubbling brook. You're a wellspring of that stuff, and you don't need it from it. It will shape completely, and you will become a mature person ultimately. So maturity is having love, worth, and happiness that does not come from other people. How do we get there? How do we get to that place in our life where we remove that expectation we have from people? Here's the first one. I think the first thing is we need to understand. We need to understand the universal nature of people. We need to understand the universal nature of people. Because what we find is that a lot of times we're asking broken people to give us way more than they can give us. To even ask somebody that, we're kind of missing the point. Would you ever do this? Would you ever drive downtown Detroit, drive up to a stoplight, where there's a guy holding a sign, right, for food or whatever? Would you ever roll down your window and say, "Hey, come here, you got any change?" Right? Would you ever do that? Why we expect people to fill our life? We wouldn't do that because we have no expectation that he is going to do it. That's what we expect other people to do because we don't really understand the universal nature of the people that we're asking to do this in our life. Throughout Scripture, the Bible doesn't do anything else. The Bible gives us God's perspective on human nature. And I'm going to tell you what, if we understand human nature, this changes so much about our life. I'm going to go to one little kind of odd spot. You may have not caught this ever before, but there's just one little odd spot where Jesus himself gives us his perception of human nature. It's in John chapter 2. And in John 2, Jesus is new on the scene, right? He's going around, he's doing miracles, and he's drawing in a crowd. And people are loving him for it. It says, now while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover festival, many people saw the signs he was performing and believed in his name. And so he's bringing in the crowds, and everybody's like, thumbs up, they're patting him on the back, they're like, you're the guy, we believe in you. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them. It wasn't trust me. Basically, as we learn through the Gospels, Jesus wouldn't divulge his entire plan to anybody, not to his closest disciples, right? So in other words, Jesus didn't just come down and say, hey, I'm the Son of God, look, I can create fire, right? He didn't do that, because that would be kind of more my style, right? Fire, drop the mic, I'm Jesus. Anyway, so that's not his style. He came in and he did some miracles and everything, but he didn't divulge the entire plan to them. He didn't entrust himself to them. For he knew all people. He did not need any testimony about mankind, for he knew what was in each person. In other words, Jesus knew that if he were to tell them the whole plan, it would all go south really quick because he could not trust them with that kind of information. Can you imagine? I can imagine the scenario if he would have turned to one of his disciples, let's say Peter, if he would have turned to Peter and said, hey, I'm just going to tell you the whole plan. I'm the Son of God, and what that actually means is that I am God, and I'm here on earth, and I'm here to save you, and I'm going to die on the cross for your sins, and that's why I'm here. I'm entrusting this to you. And Peter, I can think of a bunch of reactions. Peter would have been like, sure you are. Okay, right? He wouldn't, because of Peter's own desire, to not be associated with weirdo or whatever. He would have. On the other hand, what Peter might have done is he might have gone, Jesus Christ, okay, that's cool. Hey, guess what? I'm friends with the Son of God. Right? Look at me. Look at me. Draw people's attention toward himself and use or manipulate this relationship. Jesus is like, no, I don't trust you with that information because I know your heart. Not the people at the time, but everybody's heart. Now we on the other hand, I don't know, there's a certain naivety that we have about people. Right? You might be standing in line at Meijer and there's people in front of you and people behind you, and you make the basic assumption that people are good. Jesus didn't make that assumption. Right? And because I read through Scripture, I just kind of know the heart and nature of people. When I'm standing in line at Meijer, the people in front of me and behind me, and I'm bored, I don't know what you do, but I kind of look at it and I'm like, I wonder what's wrong with you. Because you're broken. I just don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure it out. So I just try to analyze and break down people. I don't do that to you guys. But that's just the way it is. Not just a few people, but everybody. Everybody's just broken. And here's what's broken about us. Doesn't matter who you are. Inwardly, you are completely, selfishly motivated. Right? I know that's kind of hard to hear because you're like, no. I do things for other people all the time. No, we're completely selfishly motivated. At the core of everything that we do this. We take care of our needs, our basic needs, our desire for love, worth, and happiness. And then if we have time and there's extra and we can help, then we kind of might maybe sometimes give other people time. I know this is true. I have a good friend that lives out in Oregon. You know what he does? He calls me every year on my birthday, right? We were college roommates. He calls me up every year on my birthday, and I'm always so shocked that he remembers my birthday. I have no idea when his birthday is. Like, have no clue. It could be any 12 months of the year. I have no idea. I've never gotten him a gift. I've never called him. I've never done anything like that. Right? And I know you're looking at me like, you are just horrible. Right? That's just who we are as people. We are, at the core, selfishly motivated, and that's what drives us. And that's what Jesus knew. Jesus knew that he couldn't, divulge everything to people because that's who they are. And so here's what the assumption that we have to make in our life as we look at other people. Maybe that makes sense. Why are we asking these people to fill our cup? That's just not going to happen. Again, it's like going down Detroit and asking the guy on the corner road for change. It's not going to happen. They're not capable of doing it. Marcus Aurelius once said, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Now you become a better person if you just say that part, right? That'll drive you crazy. But if then you understand this, they're like this because they can't tell good from evil, right? It's not because all people are just innately. It's because of ignorance. It's because they don't know. It's because they're broken, just like you're broken. To change your expectation or to remove the expectation that people are going to fill up your cup, you need to understand the universal nature of who people are. And once you understand that, all of a sudden you realize you're expecting too much from the human race. Second thing, don't react to people being people. Right? So if you start with that first thing, is that basically all people, even the good ones, at their core are selfishly motivated and they're trying to take care of their own life. You just got to realize that even the good ones are going to just be people. So don't react when people are people. I want to read a verse from 1 Peter chapter 2. Before we do, though, I kind of want to set it up. There's this interesting thing that happens, and this is key. If you want to grow in your relationship with Christ, understand this concept is key. In the New Testament, when they were writing the New Testament after Jesus, the Apostle Paul and Peter and John, when they were writing these books, they were instructing people how to live. And as they were instructing people how to live, they always went back to one example. They said, hey, okay, so here's the people you ought to be, and you ought to do that because remember how Jesus died. Right? They don't even draw their attention to everything that Jesus said when he was on the earth. That didn't seem to make the biggest impact. But they draw, this is the person you ought to live because remember how Jesus died. And they actually draw their attention back to the last 15 hours of Jesus' life. And they say, when Jesus was here on the earth and he died, this is how he did it. And in the same way, in the same manner that he gave up his life, this is the person you ought to become. So, you remember how Jesus was betrayed? Remember that? And Judas betrayed him on the cheek with a kiss. What did Jesus do? Well, nothing. No, he didn't do nothing. And that's not just some cool story for us. Jesus gave that to us as an example. When he was betrayed, he didn't do anything. And you know what's funny? People have been going to church and reading their Bibles their whole life. And yet when they get betrayed, they all of a sudden feel like they've got this get out of jail free card. Like, hey, I was betrayed. I was right. You were wrong. I was right. You were wrong. And all of a sudden we go, hey, I can retaliate, right? And they're like, no. Remember how Jesus died when he was betrayed? He didn't do anything. And you remember how they mocked him? Right? They brought him in, and the soldiers took a crown of thorns and they drove it onto his head and they put a fake robe on him. And then they mocked him by bowing down and worshiping him. Mock worship. And do you remember how they did that? Yeah, I remember how they did that. And what did Jesus do? Nothing. And yet, again, people have been reading their Bibles and going to church their whole life, and all of a sudden somebody insults them. We're not talking about mocking them, right? We're just talking about an insult. All of a sudden, we feel like we have every right to respond. Now, why is that? Because we're wanting them to fill our cup. We're trying to fill our cup, and they're poking holes in it. They're destroyed. And so we just can't help ourselves. We automatically retaliate. And in the New Testament, they're going, no. Remember how Jesus died? That's freedom. That's the person you're supposed to be. And you remember how Jesus, the Almighty, the righteous, he didn't have anything wrong with him. There was literally nothing wrong with him. He had made no mistake. Remember how they crucified him? How he got the wrong punishment? That's people you're supposed to become. So they're constantly looking at the people we're supposed to be, and they're going back to Jesus' death. And in 1 Peter chapter 2, there's one of those moments. Verse 23, it says, when they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threat. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. Why didn't he retaliate? Why didn't he respond? Why didn't he just kind of stand there and go, you know what? I only care what God thinks of me. Why didn't he retaliate? To me, it's kind of like this. I had a guy come up to me in church one time and just kind of, he was 60 years old and all of about 100 pounds, right? And he came up to me and he just wanted to tear my head off, right? Like in church. And he was like angry and like cussing and like very, very angry. And when that happens to me, I go into a mode, and this is a good tip. I go into a mode and I pretend like I'm having a rational conversation with a rational human being, and I just kind of answer their questions rationally. Drives them crazy, for one thing, right? I'm like, oh, and so why are you mad? And then the second move I have is I apologize. And I don't care what it is for, I apologize for something. Even if I don't feel like I'm in the wrong, I'm like, I'm sorry you felt that way, I'm sorry I did that. And sometimes, a lot of times, I am wrong, right? So I'll just like zero in on what I was wrong, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. No matter how mad, no matter how angry they get, I just keep going, I'm sorry. So I was having this conversation, and somebody was watching. And after they got done watching it, they were like, why did you do that? Like, why didn't you like give him a piece of your mind? Here's what I think every time somebody says, why do you give them a piece of your mind, right? I think, have you ever been to the zoo and like seen the monkeys, right? So you go to the zoo and you see the monkeys behind the cage and like they throw poop at you. Anybody ever heard a monkey throw poop at you? I had a monkey one time, he got like really angry at me. And he like started throwing poop at me. He was actually trying to get a rock through the cage. And if he could have gotten the rock through the cage, he would have like thrown the rock at my face. And I was just standing there watching it, right? And when I see the monkeys at the zoo, I kind of think it's funny, and they get really angry at me. Do I ever get angry back at the monkeys? Right? Why would I ever get angry back at the monkey? He's a monkey being a monkey. And when somebody said, well, I would have given him a piece of mine, I would have given him a piece of mine, I would have been like, oh, so you actually would have crawled in the cage with the monkey and thrown your poop at him? Is that what you're telling me? Right? Because that's exactly what you're saying when you're doing that. I just look at when people, if you understand the universal nature of people, and you understand what Christ has called us to do, you just kind of look at people that are angry. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't have, but you're not upset because they're just people, being people. Why would you ever react to that kind of thing? And yet, we react all the time. Why is it? Because we are expecting them to fill us up. And they're not filling us up. They're poking holes in our cup. And again, maturity is somebody that's got all of that stuff without people. Third thing, so we got to understand the universal nature of people. Don't react to people being people. And then finally, if you just really want freedom from this whole expectation that you have from other people, there's really only one path to it. It's this beautiful passage in Romans 12. I've told this to thousands of people in my life. If you really dig into this verse, if you take this home with you, if you memorize it, if you actually practice this in your life, it'll change everything about your interaction with people. Romans chapter 12 says this. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Right? If you ever want to remember that verse for the rest of your life, don't throw poop back at the monkeys. That's what it means. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. This is kind of like duh, right? But it's something we do. We constantly are reacting when people poke holes in our cup or don't fill our cup. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. Let that verse sting a little bit, right? Because we're always concerned about I'm just concerned about what's doing right in the eyes of the Lord, right? No, he says, be careful to, look around and do what's right in the eyes of everyone. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to make everybody happy, but you're just going to look around and you're going to analyze, am I doing what's right? Not just from my yahoo buddy who thinks I ought to, punch him in the face, right? Because that's what he thinks is right. But what am I doing in the eyes of everyone? Maybe even in the eyes of your enemy. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone, right? Because it takes two to tango, every relationship. There's two people involved. And he's saying, as long as it depends on you, everything that you can possibly do, anything that requires you can't control their reaction, but anything that depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And then this is the part that takes faith. This is the part that takes trust. This is where you just have to rely on God. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay. See, in our interaction with people, we get to this place where we feel like we're kind of mothering human beings, right? I've got 4 people in my life that I am a parent of, and those are the only 4 people. Everybody else is a human being. Not my kids, they're not human beings, but everybody else is not my responsibility to make sure that and we always feel this huge responsibility. Well, you need to know how wrong you were. You need to know how wrong you were. What you did was wrong. You need to know all this. God's going, don't worry about it. On the grand extreme, if they're really genuinely evil people, don't worry. They got what's coming to them. I can promise you, I'm God, and you don't have to worry about that because they got what's coming to them. Or maybe if they're just a little broken, they did something wrong, God's working on their heart just the way He's working on your heart. So don't take revenge, but leave room for God's wrath. On the contrary, this is what depends on you. This is your reaction. Everything else is God. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. Literally. Take cookies to his house. Have him over for Thanksgiving. Right? They probably won't come. But, if your enemy's hungry, literally, feed them. Give them a gift. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. Not alcohol or anything, get drunk, but just give pictures of him or something. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil. Remember, just don't get in the cage with the monkeys, but overcome evil with good. If you actually practice that, because I know some people, your reaction are that's good, that's good, that's good. But then when you leave, you may not actually do it. If you will actually do that when you leave, you'll be free. You'll be free from these expectations you have from people. Now, here's what you can expect from people. Just kind of recap. Here's what you can expect, right? You got this cup and you need it filled. What can you expect with people? First thing is, you can expect people to be people. They will disappoint you. They will be selfishly motivated. They won't give you what you need. They will fail you, even the good ones, right? Number 2, expect nothing from people. Live your life expecting nothing. And when they do something, it'll be what a nice bonus. That's great. I didn't even expect that to happen. Expect nothing from people. Now, what I just did is I set you up for failure if you don't listen to this next part, okay? I set you up for complete failure because you're going to walk out there going, I don't expect nothing from people. People are stupid. I want to buy a mountain. I want to build a cabin on a mountain. And anytime anybody tries to come up the mountain, I'll just shoot them, right? That's where you'll go if you just have that. So you can't be just there. The most important thing is, here's the question, like, how do you get your cup filled? And here's the thing, you need to know, this cup in your life, it isn't really a cup. It's actually a vacuum that was left a long time ago. See, in order to get this thing filled, you have to understand what it is. And if you don't understand what it is, then you're never going to be able to fill it. And you need to understand, this is what this is. Your desire for love, and worth, and happiness is what life is all about. See, this is a story that goes all the way back to the very first story in the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, Garden of Eden. God created human beings. And everything was perfect, and there was no sin, and they just lived in ignorance. They had no knowledge of good and evil. They didn't even know what sin was. Right? And they had a desire for love, but listen, it was immediately gratified because God was with them, and there was no sin. And so they had a desire for love, and it was immediately gratified. They had a desire to have worth, and it was immediately gratified because God was with them and there was no sin, and God gave them worth. And they had a desire for happiness, but it was immediately gratified because God gave them happiness. They lived in paradise. And then God gave them one choice. And when I say them, I mean us. He gave human nature, us as human beings, a choice. And he says, here's the thing. You can eat of any tree in the garden, but don't eat of the tree. It's important what the tree's name was. It was called the knowledge of good and evil. Don't eat of that tree. And what happened? They did. They ate, and all of a sudden they understood what sin was. That was the biggest moment. They understood there wasn't just good in life, but there was also really bad in life. And they understood this, and all of a sudden, sin entered the world. And we have a knowledge and understanding of sin. And then that sin drew a separation between us and God. And right now, as we stand today, all of us have a vacuum in our life because we still desire love, but it's not immediately gratified anymore because God's not close to us. All of us have this strong, deep desire for worth, but it's not immediately gratified anymore because God's not with us. All of us have a desire for happiness, but it cannot be immediately gratified because we're far from God. And the only thing that will fill our cup is being completely reunited with God. Now, here's kind of maybe the bad news. Your cup will never be filled on earth. Right? So it doesn't matter how long you've been following of Christ or what kind of relationship with God, you still have those longings, you still have those desires. Your cup, it'll never be completely full until the day you are reunited with Christ in heaven. And so that lack of filledness, just look at that. This is just hope deferred. But what God did give us through Jesus Christ is He gave us a down payment. He gave us a deposit. He gave us His Holy Spirit, which is, for those of us who believe in Christ, the Holy Spirit is this thing that He has inside of Him that He puts into our life. And it gives us, listen, it gives us all the love, all the worth, and all the happiness that we need. That's all that you need. It may not fill it all the way up. That won't happen until you're in heaven. But it gives you all that you need. And you may be like, you may be kind of like an alcoholic in a way because you're like, an alcoholic wakes up and they go, I can't live without a drink. And you might be sitting here going, I can't live without people. I can't live without expecting that from people. And God's telling you, no, I will give you every bit of love, worth, and happiness that you need if you look to me for it. And if you derive everything that you need from God, then you will no longer be dependent on people who can't give you what you want anyway.